How could they do that? How could they even say that? I can't even believe that all the Nazis were that cruel. I don't believe anyone could be that cruel. By using such words, Laurie Saunders, one of the most relevant characters of the novel The Wave by Todd Strasser, American novelist born in 1950, shows her skepticism about the existence of a group of drudges which is willing to execute whatever order is imposed on them by the supreme leader Adolf Hitler. Skepticism is the pillar of the entire plot. How could the German people let Hitler and the Nazi Party gain so much power and general consensus in spite of their atrocious actions completely contradicting their moral? Ben Ross, a school teacher of history, has only one goal. He wants his students to understand the National Socialist ideology, and he does so by using a completely new, clear and direct method that is also catastrophic at the same time. He starts indoctrinating the whole class by creating an actual political movement that even has a name, a logo, a salute and rules. The Wave is the name of the newborn movement, intended as a wave devastating everything on its path. Power through discipline, community and action, being the strict motto. The novel is based on the true story of a high school in Palo Alto, California, back in 1967. The history teacher Ben Ross, while explaining how the German people used ignorance to justify the Holocaust, decides to start an experiment to simulate a dictatorship inside the class. He creates a movement called the Third Wave, which, according to a popular belief, is the last and the biggest in a series of 3. The ingenuousness of these students immediately appears. In fact, they are influenced by teacher Ross, who sees himself as a powerful and charming leader. The experiment makes the young students aware that history repeats itself, and shows that controlling the masses through ideals of fraternity and sharing is extremely catchy. This is not a bad way of approaching to students, but it is quite risky. Started like a game, the experiment ends in disaster after only 5 days. The most important distinguishing features of this movement are equality, parity, fraternity, strength and respect. They all are right and positive values, sure, but they become negative when adopted just in an inner circle or community, irrespective of those who have different ideas. Even though people strongly support the movement, protest and opposition events sometimes occur. It is the case of Laurie Saunders, a girl with a strong personality and a very sharp intuition. She immediately understands that the experiment will be destructive. In Laurie's opinion, the experiment is a sort of brainwashing that makes it impossible for the mind to reason, think or imagine. The only thing the mind can do is execute orders automatically. Laurie couldn't disagree more with the experiment, and she turns into the official opposition to the movement by boycotting it through the school paper The Grapevine. Initially, she feels she belongs to this new community. Preconception disappeared, and the general mood is much more relaxed. However, the wave has its negative aspect, and it is everyone feeling superior to those who are not part of it. Talking with her mother is one of great help to Laurie, who knows that the wave must be stopped, probably due to her natural ability of predicting the decline of events. Because of this great distance between Laurie and the rest of her classmates, she now has to face her boyfriend David, and especially her best friend, who takes Laurie's opposition to the movement as a personal issue. At first, David doesn't realize that the movement is taking a turn for the worse. Later, after an act of violence against his girlfriend, he understands the situation is serious and he figures out the radical change that the wave has provoked to him. Becoming aggressive and violent makes him aware about the fact that the movement has a negative influence of his peaceful and cheerful nature. He is fascinated by the general idea of being part of a group. He even tries to involve his team that has never won a championship due to a lot of disagreements. He achieves concord amongst his teammates, conscious involvement, and team spirit. These ones are all extraordinary features in sports field, but they lead to hate and violence against enemies. Even though the epiphany comes at different times, both Laurie and David decide to confront the wave together so that to avoid potential catastrophes. This is what happens in the book. The real antagonist of Laurie is Robert, a shy guy who is usually picked on for being too reserved. He is the complete opposite of Laurie's popularity and ability. He does not have any friends, and all his schoolmates, who also believe him to be a bit retarded, marginalize him. This is why he holds on the only element that makes him equal to the others, the wave. The movement erases all differences and everybody is entitled to their dignity. When the wave no longer exists, Robert's whole world falls apart. What once was a utopia had turned into a concrete reality, which is now being destroyed. Robert's reaction changes depending on the finale we take into consideration. For example, in the German film Die Welt, the finale is much more tragic than the one of the book. The teacher does not manage to restore the order, and that leads to the death of a student and to the suicide of Robert. As opposed to that, in the novel, Robert does not commit suicide, but he cries desperately. The teacher is able to help and console him by telling him not to give up, in spite of everything that happened. Another important character of the novel is the teacher's wife. She reassures Ben and always has a piece of advice for him so that he can get to the end of the project. Moreover, the school headmaster is much more commanding and decisive in the book than in the film. Even if he supports the project under all circumstances, he does not want the teacher to scare the students' parents. However, novel and film provide a clear image about the mechanism which leads to a new Hitler Youth formation. Actually, they both show how a selected group of people joins together, with a provided uniform, motto, logo, and salute. In the film adaptation of the novel, Gansel does a brilliant, clever, and systematic use of punk and rock music. Since the beginning, he starts with Rock and Roll School of the Ramones, so that he underlines how the power can embrace everything, even what should fight it. Furthermore, the use of language is not left to chance. Modern and jerky at first, later adapted to the strict system and military authority of a dictatorial regime. Cinematographic language, in this specific case, is clear and direct, succeeding in creating a greater impact compared to the novel's chosen words, which fail in creating emotional and emotive involvement on the spectator. The end of the film is more direct and gritty than novel's one, and precisely these characteristics make it meaningful enough to leave in the spectator a sense of skepticism about the bitter end of a newborn autocracy.